This is in response to Billy's Talking Points memo from Thursday, March 12th, 2015, killing the cops. Now today is Monday, March 16th. I waited a couple of reasons over the weekend for this to play out. Is that one, was there going to be any violence? Was there going to be anything spectacular going on there? It took about 2 days, and the cops finally nabbed someone. It was a young black man. I believe he was 20 years old. We also know that both of the officers survived and were sent home that day. From the preliminary reports that we've heard, and of course it's coming from McCullough, the guy who refused to prosecute in the Michael Brown case, was that the person confessed and that possibly was actually targeting someone else, a rival, so to speak. Funny how you can do that. You can aim 2 bullets and at someone, miss both of them, and then hit 2 other people who probably weren't right next to where the protesters were, if he was obviously aiming in that way. But so I went back and I looked at Billy's thing, and really saw some real meanness in Billy's commentary on this. Billy's commentary was, they had the shooting. Right before the shooting, they had gotten rid of the chief of police who had resigned that day, and I believe the day before, something like that, or 2 days before that, the city manager, the chief, not the mayor, but the chief financial officer, city manager, something like that, had resigned. And remember, those 2 guys were co-conspirators. They were performing racketeering work. We used to call them sales quotas. They had quotas on how much they needed to shake down the population so that they could get enough money to run their business. And this is something that is just horrendous, and there were many other people who were complicit with what this was going on. So it was the start. It wasn't the culmination of what was going on. And of course, Billy is trying to say they got what they wanted, and the city has moved on. And, the city is changing. But then he has to bring up that it's all about anarchy and things like that. And he brings up someone named Method Man, a rapper, indicating that, first off, he indicated that the Method Man did, that the shootings were horrible, they shouldn't have happened, it was a very tragic thing. And then went on to just basically explain that, hey, you reap what you sow. And Billy was very upset about that. And even though I don't necessarily agree with what Mr. Method Man had to say, I understand the sentiment in terms of, man, these people for years and years and years and years were shaking down the black population, pulling them over for very, very minute things to get money out of them. And it wasn't just the fact that they got money out of them, it's the fact that people went to jail over this, that people got records over this, that people could not pay these bills and it affected their income. Perhaps some went into bankruptcy. Of course, they can't go into, we changed the law during the Bush years so that, poor people can't go into bankruptcy, just rich people. So they took care of that. But people went to jail over minor things. They couldn't pay fines and had to go to jail like a debtor's prison. This was, corruption. This was racketeering. And just getting rid of a couple people is just the beginning. And guess what? This isn't just confined to Ferguson. Because if it happened there, it's happening in a lot of other places. So when Billy says, the city is changing, it's changing in a very, very minute way. That some of the people at the top, all about everything has to change. In fact, there was a quick segment on one of the TV shows, and they had some cop you know, said, I don't know if it was for the county, I don't know if it was for the city, and, you know, he says, you know, we both are going through a lot of changes, and we both have to be patient, meaning that the cops have to be patient with the people, and the people have to be patient with the cops. And I'm going, why should the people be patient with the cops? Look how you treated these people. Look how you did not uphold the rule of law. You actually, you know, were breaking the law, you know, trying to hurt people so that you could keep, you know, make enough money for the city to run, as opposed to putting in a tax, you know, or some other methods, investing in the city. So, you're saying that the people need to be patient while you're changing? No. They do not need to be patient. You know, you were committing fraud, you were committing abuse, you were shaking down people. You know, this is just holy crap. You know, but so, you know, Billy's thinking, oh, you know, the city's changing, they're moving on. Listen to Mr. Method Man, you reap what you sow, which is unfortunate the way it came out. But again, I understand the sentiment of the whole thing. And of course, Billy calls it colossal ignorance. And he goes back into the anarchy, that this is an anti-American play, and then he blames the media for not smacking down Mr. Method Man. And I'm just going, you know, there was a lot of stuff that was going on about that where we should have gotten back. I mean, we should be pointing out even more how terrible it was in Ferguson, that the federal cops, I mean, the Justice Department had to come in, you know, and point out, you know, what despicable actions they had been doing, and they were slapping each other on the back as they were hitting their quotas, right? And Billy just wants to say that, oh, we need to get back at Method Man, and blaming the media for not exposing all of these haters. And you know, who's the real hater? You know, the citizens of Ferguson who had to live in fear of getting pulled over all the time, you know, or the people who were shaking them down for the money. Now, you know, I live in an affluent area, and I've said this before on one or two other rants. You know, one of my son's friends who happens to be black came by, you know, about a year ago, and he used to have one of those big Impalas or Caprices with the big 22-inch wheels with the rims and the tinted windows. And he came by and he was driving like about a 15-year-old Audi. It was silver, you know, it was a little rusty, a little bit, no tinted windows or anything. And I said, and you know, I know this kid. I said, Michael, what happened to the Bromobile? And he says, man, I got rid of it. And he says, you know what? I said, no, what? He says, ever since I got rid of that car and I started driving this little Audi over here, I haven't been pulled over once. Now, I live in an fairly affluent area, and I'm pretty sure that the police aren't pulling people over for that type of stuff in the county that I live in. And so, if it was happening in my county just because of the look of the car, and my son, who also had a big Buick, not a Chevy, he had a big Buick with tinted windows, he said he used to get pulled over all the time. You know, they're pulling people over because they want to harass them. They suspect things. There's no reason that they pulled them over. They pulled them over just to do that. Now, if it's happening in my county, and which I said is a fairly affluent area, you know, I know that that's what's happening day in and day out in Ferguson, and that was happening day in and day out in other places. And Billy, the haters aren't the cops. I mean, excuse me, the cops are the ones who are the haters, especially in Ferguson.